God's traveling salesman. Chaplain Tim is not famous, probably never will be. Yet among the men of his parachute division, he is a hero. His men know in their hearts that Father Duffy would be proud of Chaplain Tim. When he was first assigned to the division, the men looked Chaplain Tim over carefully in frank appraisal. One of the less tactful GIs visited Tim's office, and in the full flush of youthful determination, let Chaplain Tim have it straight. "Look, Padre," blurted out the boy, "we don't aim to have religion jammed down our throats, see? We don't like snooping and tattling either. We've had a taste of that, and we're pretty fed up with it."
Can't say that I blame you.
Chaplain Tim grinned. "I wouldn't like a man who did that any more than you did." Joe's mouth hung open in sudden astonishment. "I most certainly don't intend to preach at you fellows," continued Tim. "If you want to come to my services, fine. If you don't, that's all right too. You know, I'm just one of God's traveling salesmen, and if I'm not able to sell religion to you and make you like it, then I'm not worth my salt." "Golly, Padre," Joe beamed. "You're gonna be the kind of chaplain we like. Something new has been added." On the following Sunday, when Chaplain Tim held his first services, there wasn't a vacant seat. Men were even standing. And they liked what they heard. The services were simple and impressive, and his talk was down to earth, filled with good, sound horse sense. Shortly afterwards, the men began to drop in at Chaplain Tim's office. Some of them wanted spiritual advice. Others wanted counsel on money matters, and scores asked for and got advice on affairs of the heart. One cold, gray morning not long afterwards, the men were routed from their sleep and herded before the colonel. They knew, before he spoke to them, that this was it, that they were going into action. Speaking in a quiet, solemn voice, the colonel told them that they were to take off in 20 minutes later. As the motors roared in the big transport planes, the men milled about the airfield saying goodbye and wishing each other good luck. Chaplain Tim was there too, doing what he could. Then Joe Benton stepped up to Tim, and a sudden, unexplained hush fell on the men. "Padre," requested Joe, "please lead us in prayer before we take off." As Chaplain Tim began to speak, the men bowed their heads and listened, with consternation in their hearts and smiles on their lips. Afterwards, they raced for their planes, but not before Joe Benton turned back abruptly and shouted to Chaplain Tim. "Don't go away, Padre," he cried. "Stay here and see us off."
See you off?
Indignantly snorted Tim, "I'm coming with you." When the parachutists jumped into the hail of enemy fire, a few hours later, Chaplain Tim jumped with them. He advanced with the men, and when some of them were hurt, he knelt and talked to them until the medics arrived. Others were hurt more seriously, and he prayed with them, offering hope and encouragement. But to others, he could offer nothing, for they were dead. All he could do was to fervently pray that they would rest in eternal peace. The battle increased in fury and intensity, but Chaplain Tim was everywhere, helping with stretchers, giving first aid, and helping with supplies. But suddenly, he stopped dead in his tracks as he looked out beyond the yank lines. Joe Benton had been felled by a Jap bullet and was sprawled on the ground, helpless. It was only a few breathless moments before Chaplain Tim was kneeling beside Joe, staring in an ugly hole in his forehead. "It's only a scratch, Padre," Joe said weakly. "I'll be okay." Chaplain Tim looked away to fight back the tears that welled in his eyes, and in that awful instant, he saw a grenade zooming straight toward the foxhole. Miraculously, the grenade fell to the ground with a thud. Chaplain Tim knew, however, that the grenade might explode any moment, and he also knew that if he was able to toss it back into the enemy lines, he could save his own and Joe's life. Tim snatched up the grenade in his right hand, straightened up, and started to throw it away. But before he could let go, it happened. The grenade exploded, hurling him to the ground. When he stood up again, he was minus his right hand. When Chaplain Tim came to, he was in a hospital bed with a doctor standing over him.
How is Joe?
He murmured.
He's fine,
Replied the doctor. "He'll be back in action in a month."
thanks to you.
Today, Chaplain Tim is back with his men, serving in the Army of Occupation. They wanted him to return to the United States, but Chaplain Tim would have none of it. "I'll stay with my boys," he declared. "My brains weren't in my right hand. I'm staying with my outfit." "You tell him, Padre," grinned Joe Benton. "This man's army wouldn't be the same without you." very American person. Francis Patrick Duffy was born on May 2, 1871 in Cobourg, Ontario. But his humble parents little realized that the squalling might of humanity was later to become a legend and a symbol of inspiration to hundreds of chaplains in World War II. From the very beginning, little Francis Patrick was a religious lad. He was schooled by the pious Sisters of St. Joseph's School, and during this time he gradually realized that he wanted to devote his life to God. After becoming a priest, Father Duffy taught in Canada for a while, but later moved to New York City. He soon began to love this great, sprawling nation, and before many years decided to become a citizen. It was a fateful day for him, and for thousands of American boys, when he took the oath of allegiance to the United States on June 7, 1902. But being a good Irishman too, Father Duffy could not stay out of a fight, and during the Spanish-American War, he became a post-chaplain with the U.S. Army. No ordinary chaplain was Father Duffy. He was among the first soldiers of God to move into the front lines to minister to his boys wherever they went. He was as solicitous of the ill as he was of the fighting men, and when typhoid fever broke out among our men, not for a moment did he falter in his duty. Father Duffy worked day and night with the stricken men, stopping only when he himself was felled by the dreaded malady. Then, and only then, did he return to the United States, even during his recuperation. Father Duffy strained at the leash, impatient at being idle. As soon as he was released from the hospital, he established Our Savior Parish in the Bronx and succeeded later in erecting one of New York's most imposing churches. But despite his parish duties, Father Duffy still retained a keen interest in the Army. An unusually popular man, he was soon appointed chaplain of the famous fighting 69th Regiment of the NY National Guard. When war was declared against Mexico, Father Duffy accompanied the 69th to the border, again serving both his God and his country. When the conflict with Germany started on April 6, 1917, both the 69th and Father Duffy were again ready.
Don't join the 69th unless you want to be among the first to go to France.
That was the slogan of Father Duffy and the 69th, and it induced droves of indignant Irish Americans to sign up with the regiment. Weeks of training ensued, with Father Duffy not only the confessor of his men, but the confidant and patron as well. But at last, he and the regiment embarked for Europe, and on March 1, 1918, the 69th reached the trenches. Their Father Duffy worked night and day, offering encouragement, spiritual uplift, and joking with frightened soldiers, changing their fear into an unrelenting determination to triumph. The Huns struck hard and often, and many of Father Duffy's boys were injured, maimed, and killed. With sadness in his heart, Father Duffy fearlessly strode into the very jaws of the enemy lines, bringing back the injured and dead. Later, the 69th was subjected to a brutal gas attack, and again Father Duffy proved himself as fearless as he was tireless. He led blinded men to the rear, racing back to the front time and time again, dressing mustard gas burns and helping remove the dead and wounded. He guided the men of the 69th through even darker days, through the heartbreaking and seemingly unending Battle of the Champagne, when the Yanks had their backs to the wall. Then came the terrible Battle of the Arc, the crucial St. Mihiel offensive, the glorious Battle of the Argonne, and finally victory! Throughout it all, Father Duffy was cool, confident, and courageous. He risked his life hundreds of times. He literally laughed at danger, for his uppermost thought was the welfare and safety of his beloved 69th. After the war, during the occupation, Father Duffy still fought for his men. He insisted that they should have comfortable quarters, recreation, and entertainment. He was mainly responsible for keeping up their high morale. And no one was happier or prouder than Father Duffy on that exciting day when the 69th marched down Fifth Avenue to a typical and tumultuous New York welcome. Known variously as the Iron Man and Frontline Duffy, the tireless priest continued working for the 69th, even after returning to the duties of parish life. After his death, on June 26, 1932, the grief-stricken men of the 69th erected a statue to the memory of the man whom everybody loved on Broadway at 46th Street. Yes, Father Duffy was a priest, but first he was an American, and he liked best to classify himself as very Irish, very Catholic, and very American. To Today, his statue stands in Duffy Square, a symbol to the entire world, a challenge and an inspiration to the chaplains of World War II, who did not let Father Duffy down.